a production of the New Jersey courts.
For me as a judge, looking at Korematsu, it reminds me that we as judges have to make our decisions not based upon emotion or fear, but rather the facts. And the facts in the Korematsu case were unassailable, which is that Fred Korematsu was not a threat to the United States, that there was no justification for rounding up 100,000 innocent families and placing them in internment camps.
December 7, 1941, the Japanese attack Pearl Harbor. Military and political advisors pressured President Franklin D. Roosevelt to do something to address the nation's fear of further Japanese attacks. His response was Executive Order 9066. It ordered the removal of resident enemy aliens from parts of the West vaguely identified as military areas. Japanese immigrants were rounded up and placed in detention centers. They could only take as many of their possessions as they could carry. They were housed in cramped quarters, in camps like Manzanar and Tule Lake. Many lost their businesses and farms.
When the Japanese Americans had no power whatsoever, they were afraid to fight, and they knew that they could not win if they fought. So most of them just went into the internment camps as they were directed to do. There was no fighting back. But today, yes, I think people are asserting themselves. In fact, before I went to law school, we had an Asian Pacific American group that did consciousness-raising workshops, and we learned how to become more assertive.
23-year-old Fred Korematsu defied Civilian Exclusion Order 34 of the executive order and refused to leave his home in San Leandro, California. He was convicted and appealed. In 1944, the U.S. Supreme Court heard the case. In a 6-3 decision, the court accepted the U.S. military's argument that the loyalty of some Japanese Americans lie with their ancestral home, and it was impossible to separate the loyal from the disloyal, and the internment order had to apply to all Japanese Americans within the restricted areas. Justice Robert Jackson dissented, saying Korematsu had been convicted of an act not commonly thought a crime. It consists merely of being present in the state whereof he is a citizen, near the place where he was born and where all his life he has lived. In 1983, federal courts overturned Korematsu's original conviction, but the Supreme Court has never had an opportunity to overturn the 1944 decision in any official way.
The impact of Korematsu was really an alarm bell. It was an alarm bell because most of the Japanese Americans at the time living in that area, they were farmers, and they presented no true risk. If exclusion order number 34 could happen to a peaceful, law-abiding group of citizens, it could happen to anybody. More recently, there is a fear of immigration. Our immigration policies are being challenged at every level, and there is, again, a stoking of unfounded fear. But I think as judges, we need to take a step back from what we hear about in the media and from politics and figure out, are there real facts to ground a decision, to challenge somebody's liberty, or to challenge somebody's immigration status?
New Jersey has one of the top 5 most Asian Americans in America, top 5 states of most Asian Americans in America. And yet, you can count the number of Asian American judges in 2 hands. These are all issues that are of grave concern to the New Jersey Asian Pacific American Lawyers Association and to the Asian American community. When they go to court, they practically never see an Asian American judge.
I think litigants, when they first come to court, they're scared. They've never been in a courtroom, and they've never been before a judge. And I think that if a judge looks like them, talks like them, understands them from a cultural level, they feel more at ease. Certainly, the Minority Concerns Committee in each one of the visages plays an important role in ensuring that minorities have access to our courts and that they receive equal treatment. Part of the problem in Korematsu was a lack of education. I think once you have stir up fear of, particularly against a stereotypical minority, the only way to counteract that is to educate, to talk to people, to be more vocal, to be more, I guess, out in the open. And people like lawyers, judges, politicians, we all have a role in making sure that the right message is, I guess, pronounced, and that we counteract the fear of minorities.